Do you want more confidence, more insight, compassion, and understanding of people in other situations? Well, this week I have 3 fiction books that I have recently read that I have to share with you that have all made me grow and expand in new ways and had new awareness for other people, both historical facts and fiction. They're all fiction books, but some of them are historical fiction. One is just plain fun fiction. I am Rachel Stravelli. I'm a garden coach and a writer, and I help people with their creativity, to embrace their whole selves, to bring out your full expression. And I believe, as I've shared in some of my videos before, reading is one of the best ways that we can grow as people, share in the wisdom that other people have gained. And if you know anything about successful people read a lot. And you may have a different definition of success that I do, but I have a hunch that you probably want to be successful in one way or another. If this is your first time here, there is a subscribe button below. I would love if you click that. You'll always find out when the latest videos come out, which is right now every Friday. If you hit the notification bell, you'll get a notification when the latest videos come out. All right, so first I'm going to start with the book, which is, I believe, one of the older books of the ones that I'm sharing, Girl in Translation by Jean Kwok. So this was a bestseller when it came out. She has more recent book, and I looked up, she's actually working on a book this year. Although her latest book is horror, and that's not really my style. As the nation and the world is having more awareness of, oh wait, I need to help dismantle racism, bring more equity into the world, address belonging and things like that. One of the ways that I like to do that is to read books by people from other cultures, other lands, other races, other languages, other backgrounds, so that I can really empathize with and understand what the experience of that person is. And so this book, while it is a fiction, has autobiographical elements to it. This book in some ways broke my heart. I'm glad to know that things have worked out well for Jen, but hearing her story of being a girl raised in Hong Kong and then moving with her mother to Brooklyn, working in a sweatshop in America. And okay, I'm being ultra dramatic right now, but even though I know that there must have been sweatshops in America, in my mind, I was thinking this was like ages ago, you know, like generations and generations. She's not that old. And when she was a child, that's what she was doing with her mother. Her mother, let's see, well, in the book, it's a single mom. I'll have to look up if actually it was a single mom who raised her. So I will not give you any spoilers, but this book was such a powerful way for me to really deeply connect with and think about, what about those who don't have, you know, the privileges that I was born with, of like a home with heat, not having to start working in a sweatshop at age 11. As a teenager, I worked a part-time job. It wasn't so my family could survive. It was so I had spending money. She was doing it so they could survive. And this book really is so beautiful too, because so I've read many books written by authors who either still live in Asia or they live in America now, but they are either from Japan or China or Korea. I've read, I just love reading about Asian cultures. And, you know, like with any good book, you get to travel without going anywhere. It's a lot cheaper than a plane ticket. And right now, most people won't let Americans in because of COVID. So it's the only way to travel right now. Hearing about the traditions that her and her mother still kept up in America, and different ways she talked about some of the traditions and the cultural elements, and how those both were nourishing and supportive of her, and also limited things that were happening to her. So I highly recommend this, especially if you are interested in expanding your awareness beyond your unique current background, race, whatnot. So this is a fabulous book for that. The next book, so this one is not historical, it's realistic, but there are no, other things beyond that influence it. But What Alice Forgot by Liane Moriaty was such a compelling book. So early on in the book, the very beginning, the author wakes up with amnesia, and she has forgotten the last 10 years of her life. And so her last memory is when her daughter, when she was pregnant with her daughter. Now she has a 10-year-old and 2 other kids that she has no memory of. And oh my gosh, I don't want to give away too much. Her and her husband, who when she, 10 years ago, everything was great. Everything is not great right now. So Alice has total amnesia of all of these things, has lost a decade of her life. But what is really cool that has happened is the Alice who was the fun-loving adult who wasn't burdened by responsibilities or parenting or decisions or all of those things, not that they're always a burden, but it impacts your life. It adds more to your life. Well, she still has the consciousness of this fun, freewheeling person in her 20s. And yet all of a sudden now, bam, she's smack dab as a person in her 40s. So here's who I recommend this book for. If you're at all going through a midlife crisis, I think you will love this book, because it's almost a different way that she's presenting this midlife crisis idea. And it made me think about, after I was reading it, what if I went back 10 years, what are the parts of me from 10 years ago or 20 years ago that I wish that I had brought forward with me? Another interesting thing that I love about this, which I have experienced in my life as well, is the people she's friends with, all of a sudden she's thinking, why am I even friends with these people? These are the values I have? These are the people I'm hanging out with? These are the things I talk about? And I've had moments like that in my life too, where things had changed, and all of a sudden it's like one day I thought, wait a minute, why don't I have any friends who are into, this hobby of mine, or deeply into spirituality, and I'm deeply into that, but none of my friend circle's into that. And so you may have also had instances, especially if you get into something new, or you rekindle something from your past, when you think, my current life doesn't actually reflect my inner life or my values or my hobbies or desires. And so this book would be lovely if you're experiencing some of that right now, to look at how does she engage with it? How does she, compromise, meld, harmonize with who she was in the past with who she is right now? And I do feel like 2020 has given us a lot of opportunity for self-reflection. And sometimes, well, I almost feel that every book I read practically provides me an opportunity for self-reflection, because I get really invested in what's happening with the characters. And I'm always thinking, well, what would I do in that situation? And so in another way to talk about the benefits of books, which I should probably make a whole nother video about the benefits of reading, are you get to expand your emotional intelligence and your empathy and awareness for others. Highly recommend. Also, I'm on a bit of a trend of reading a lot of Liane Moriaty's books, because everything I've read by her is so amazing. And I've read her newer stuff, so now I'm having to go back, because I believe this book was written, I should look that up, before 2009. I easily found this in some of these, thrift books or Abe books, or I forget, places where they sell the used books for pretty cheaply. If you're local to me, I have an extra copy. So reach out. All right, this book is newer. This is the newest one. Again, if you're local to me, reach out. I'm happy to lend it to you. It was a Reese's Book Club bestseller recommendation. That's how I came across it. However, I love books by Jojo Moyes. I really need to look up how people pronounce their names. The Giver of Stars. So you may be familiar with her. Me Before You was maybe her most famous book. It was also made into a movie. If you have heard about the women librarians who delivered books on horseback in the Appalachian Mountains, this book is going to be such a treat for you. If you haven't heard about these women and yet you love books with strong female characters, historical elements, where you're actually learning history as you're reading a book, bam, get this book. The other thing I love about this is, if you know me well, you know I love the Appalachian Mountains, the landscape, oh, the mountains. I could just lie down in the forest and be happy as a clam, as long as there's not too many ants walking over me. So I feel like she does a pretty good job of making you feel like you're in the mountains too, and bringing out those natural elements. So how she works with setting is wonderful. The main character comes from England. She's a little bit of an oddball there. Her family is just, they don't know what to do with her. She's a little too loud and too much. But then she meets this lovely man from America. They fall in love. They get married. She moves with him to America, having never been there, after only knowing him for 2 weeks. What is her name again? Oh, yeah, Alice. So then she moves to small town Kentucky in, I think this is, oh gosh, I should have remembered the exact year, but it's the early 1900s. So here we are in the deep holler of Kentucky, and for many people there aren't libraries around them. I mean, even literacy is pretty low. So what happens is, the Roosevelts are in office during the book. There's a public program to have people carry books out into the reaches of the mountain community via horseback. So these women every day saddle up their horses, put books in the saddlebags. They have their ledger where they note who they're going to give the books to and when they're going to go back, whether it's in 1 week or 2 weeks, and they go out and deliver books. Now, if you know anything about history, you know that there are those that love books, like me and you and others, and then there are those who are threatened by more people learning how to read, or more people reading things that might shake things up, change things. That happens in this book and more. I really want you to be surprised and enjoy so many of the elements. So I'm not even going to get into what are the dramas and things that happen, because I personally love when I just have a glimpse of what's going on, but everything else gets to be a surprise after that. I don't want to know too much about the plot, so I'm not going to tell you too much of the plot or the action. I highly recommend it. There's a reason Reese Witherspoon chose this. So she is very dedicated to choosing books that are going to expand our awareness in one way or another. This book addresses issues of class and poverty, of women's rights, or what is the role of a woman, also race, which is great how they bring this up in there too. And like I said, you get to learn history. And personally, this is one of the reasons I like reading historical fiction, is it's such a lovely way to, you know, Jojo or any other historical fiction author, they spend hours and hours and hours of researching and getting all of this richness of detail so they can set the stage for us. Meanwhile, we just get to sit back and read and enjoy the book or listen to the book on audio, and yet you're learning history at the same time. So I think, especially when an author who doesn't do historical fiction does historical fiction, we really want to honor that effort, because it takes a lot more effort to do historical fiction well because of the background research that needs to be done. Again, highly recommend. I will be coming on again soon with more books that I'm reading. I always have at least one fiction book and one nonfiction book that I'm working on. I'd love to hear what you're reading today. It doesn't have to be a new book. I read new books, old books, in between books. And so classics, non-classics. And I am always interested to hear, what have you read that you really value and that is giving you something new to your life, a new perspective, a new awareness, new knowledge of history. So please comment below and tell me what's the last book that you read, fiction book, that you really enjoyed. And next week, there will be another video that is my nonfiction book list. So those will be the most current books that I've been reading that are nonfiction. Again, please give this video a thumbs up, click the subscribe button below, and stay connected, and I will see you soon.